Hey everyone, happy Wednesday and happy second day of the RHS Chelsea Flower Show. Every single year we get so excited for this show. If you don't know anything about the RHS Chelsea Flower Show, it is the world's greatest flower show. It takes place every year in the heart of London in the borough of Chelsea, and it's put on by the Royal Horticultural Society. So the Royal Horticultural Society is obviously the biggest probably garden club and society of gardeners and experts in the world. And every year they have shows all over Britain and in the heart of London. So the show started yesterday, and unfortunately we cannot be there this year, but we are following along on TV, streaming every night of the show. BritBox actually has coverage of the entire show, and so they'll have episodes up every single night for you to watch. We are actually having a creator watch party, and every single night over on our Instagram page, we are following along and sharing our favorite gardens and tips and inspirations that we're finding. Today, what I thought I would do is take away some inspiration from our trip last year. There was a glorious container garden that we saw that was just filled to the brim with color and interest, and what we wanted to do was bring that back to our own garden. So we had this trough left over that we had some arborvitaes planted on our patio. You guys know from our last video, I took those arborvitaes out and planted them out in the garden over by our new picket fence between our neighbor's house and ours. And so we're left over with this beautiful trough, and I thought, wow, we saw that gorgeous trough in Chelsea last year that was just so interesting and so beautiful, layered with color and interesting plants, and I thought we would do that this year. We actually had some plants laying around that we're gonna use. We have some plants here that are gifted from some of our friends, and we're just gonna fill this thing up. So let's get started. All right, so the first thing that I'm actually gonna plant is the tallest part of what we're gonna plant. And I've got this gorgeous Agistaki from Proven Winners. This one is called Meant to Be Queen Nectarine. If you guys see this, it's super tall. One of the gorgeous things that they had in the container garden in Chelsea that this one is inspired by is really sort of whimsical, tall plants. And I think that that's the most interesting thing maybe about walking around Chelsea and exploring, was just seeing how they used plants in different ways than we are used to. And so when we saw this, I thought, wow, that'd be perfect for this. It's got that sort of loose vibe, so it's not overpowering in the container. It also has a beautiful color that was sort of the jumping off point for this entire container. So what I'm gonna do is, it has one little branch that broke off here. What I'm gonna do is actually plant this sort of towards the back, because the inspiration for this container garden was completely full of plants. And I think that's what I'm gonna try to do today. If we can fit enough plants in this container, and if I have enough to fill the container, we're gonna replicate that look. So I've got our Agistaki right here in the back. Just gonna sort of tuck it in there. And I think the most important thing too, with the inspiration from Chelsea, was just that it was just packed in. So whatever you can find, whatever kind of plants that you enjoy, that you like, maybe things that you wouldn't normally plant in a container, plant them in something like this all together, and that way you just have that explosion of color, but then you also get all of the foliage that just fills in those empty gaps. So we've got our Agistaki here. The other thing I have here is a tall Verbina. So this has some deep purple to it. It's got a little bit thicker stems, and I thought that, it's actually funny, this came back from last year in our garden, and what I thought was, well, it's not gonna be in this place because you guys know we are reconfiguring our entire garden space. So we dug this up, and I decided to use it in here because, like I said, it has that whimsical nature that I'm looking for this little container. And that's so much of Chelsea really was about whimsical gardening, and really gardening in a way that is thoughtful to how you like to garden. And I think that these are some of our favorite plants. And I think it's so funny when you look at all the landscape designers that are able to participate in Chelsea and that are invited to create gardens there, they're really just packing their favorite plants in, and plants that really fit the aesthetic of the gardens that they're creating. So I've got our tall Verbena in here now. So the next thing I'm actually going to plant is 2 Tetrapanics. If you guys are familiar with Tetrapanics, this plant is so interesting. I'll show you. It has these very large, sort of hand-like leaves that have these beautiful fingers. And this is a spreader. This is like almost a Jurassic-looking plant to me. Our friend Jay from Jay's Garden Journal, she actually dropped these by because they were growing in her garden, and she had some spreaders that she dug up this year and wanted to give away, and we took them gladly. It's so funny because in our garden, we just don't have that much space, and so we're very careful to plant things that are spreading, but we want to feature these kind of things in different areas. She brought 2 of them, and I think it was meant to be. They have to go in this container because this is exactly the kind of sort of different, bold plants that we want to use in something like this. Just get it out of its container here. Really rooted in. Oh my gosh. So she took a cutting of this from her garden, dug it up. Actually, she took a spreader and dug it up, and look at the root system already. So what I'm going to do here is sort of use this as the end cap, because we have 2 of them on either end of the container. And you'll see that bold, heavy leaf is just going to add so much texture to this container. I think I like that. One thing I want to pay attention to is that the leaves are sort of presenting themselves. Obviously, this will grow. The leaves will take over. I'll probably trim some of the leaves back as we go, just so it doesn't cover up too much of the other stuff. But what I want is it to present sort of both sides, just like that. And I think that's perfect. So I'll take the other one here. These are great, great quality plants. Wow, look at that. Same as the other one. Amazing. Just gonna pop that one right here. Same vibe as the other side. I think that fits in perfectly. Just cover the root ball. And we do have drip already sort of set up in here. So there's a tube that is just in a holding pattern right now that sticks out the bottom, and I've pinned it to the top so we can add drip to this. There's gonna be a lot of plants in this container, so I'm gonna wanna make sure that they all have ample water. Okay, I think I'm happy with our Tetrapanics. What I'm gonna add next is some roses. So this was one of the things about that inspiration container that we saw in Chelsea that I was so surprised by. So the container has tons of purples and pinks, and honestly, it had dianthus in it, and it had roses, and it had petunias, and just all sorts of plants that I would never think to pair together. But one of the things that I was most impressed by was their use of just really small roses. I don't know what kind of rose this is, but I got it from Trader Joe's because it felt like it would fit the vibe, and it would fit the, well, honestly, it's the small enough rose that we could fit it in here. It may get large eventually, and I'll have to take it out of here, but probably not this year. And so what I thought was this would be the perfect way to sort of incorporate that kind of planting into this container that's so inspired by Chelsea. So I'm just gonna put this, I'm gonna tuck it, if I can, right in here. So it sort of bridges the transition between these 2 plants. I'm gonna be careful so that we don't get too covered here by the Tetrapanic's leaves, just knowing that they're gonna get bigger and bigger and grow more, and we'll wanna make sure that you can still see our rose. So I'm gonna sort of put it right there in the front. And I'm gonna turn it to sort of at an angle so I can fit another plant right here. Probably fit another plant right here in the back too. And I've got another one of these that I'm actually gonna plant in the other side. You don't really have to mirror everything in this. It's really a collection of plants. So if you have found plants that you really love that you wanna pack into a container garden, I think that that's what this really is. Just plants that you love packed in a way that maybe you wouldn't normally plant. Okay, I'm gonna pop these. This one, same side, same as the other side. I'm gonna try to sort of fit it in the same spot, right in that transition. And I'll go in here after and backfill with some good soil so that we have all of our little gaps completely filled. Move this Tetrapanics back a little bit. and then move our rose back too. Cool. Okay, I think that works. I want to leave a little gap right in the center because I have some more plants that I'm going to put in there. I want to make sure too, because we've got this Agistaki and the Verbina, that we're sort of leaving that as the centerpiece. Scoot this rose right over. There we go. I think that's right. Wow, this Tetropanica is so beautiful, taking up the perfect space right here. Okay, so what's next? I've got these gorgeous dahlias from Proven Winners. This one's called Virtuoso Pinkerific, and this has sort of a tropical look to it, which I really love. It's got that pink that fades into yellow, and I thought that that would help sort of brighten this mix. It obviously brings that warmth tone, which I think is really, really nice. And these are dahlias, which will bloom all summer long for us and give us that really nice bold color that we need in here. So I'm gonna pop this. Everything's getting tight, but I'm just gonna pop it right there in the middle, and that way we have that bold color right in the middle of the container. And like I said, the container this is inspired by that we saw in Chelsea really has that bold color all the way throughout. So I think that the more color, the better. I think this is just all I could find when I was planning this. So this has to work for us. So I'm gonna see if I can drop this right here. I think that's a good spot. Sort of. Our rose is a little loose here. If I can support that. There we go. Okay. I am actually going to, yeah, there, that's perfect. Move the rose back just a little bit. There we go, perfect. That way it's in the right spot. Okay, so I went ahead and grabbed all of our plants from around the front of the container just so I have easy access. But the next plant that I'm gonna plant is this really beautiful lemon cream coneflower from Bloomables. I just thought that this color was so interesting. It starts out as kind of an orange and then it fades to a yellow, and then it's got that double bloom that I think is going to be really pretty in here. We've got the warms already going on sort of up here where you're going to see. We've got the warm right here with the hot pink, and I thought this would really help sort of even that out. So what I'm going to do is see if I can get this root ball out of here. Quite the root system on this plant. And I'm gonna just pop this right in the middle. Like I said, one of the things that we saw in this container that this is inspired by is just the complete sort of filling up of foliage. And then sitting right on top of all the foliage was the flowers, of course. And that really gave your eye this beautiful green sort of bed. And then all of the color on top of that really popped off. And it was so, so gorgeous. Got one more here. Just gonna pop in. Same thing here. Take some of this root off. See if I can fit this right in here. Got our mini rose. It's kind of falling apart just a little bit, but once I sort of backfill, I think that it'll be fine. All right, that's beautiful. Next thing I have is Trufflea Pink GFrina. So this is from Proven Winners, and I know that you're probably thinking this is a small plant, and that is true. This actually came back in our landscape, which can happen sometimes. We had a pretty harsh winter this year, and then we still got 2 of these to come back. So I'm actually pretty proud of that, and I'm excited that we could take them out of the landscape and use them in this container. This plant is gonna get tall and whimsical, but it really sort of, there's flowers all the way from the top to the bottom. So I think that it'll work really nice sort of as a tall element in here in the middle, probably around this layer. And then it'll sort of maybe spill over too, which I think will be quite nice. So I'm gonna pop this right here in the front. That way we've got some of that whimsy added down low. And then I have one more to plant right in the other side. This one doesn't have quite as many little blooms on it yet as the other one does. So I think you're just gonna have to use your imagination for now there. All right, we've made it to our final plants, which is crazy because we have so many sort of being packed in here. But we've used this quite a bit already this year, and I think that we had a few extras, and I thought, okay, we're gonna need some of that purple from up high down low, and that way we've got that cool tone. So this is the Superunia Tiara Blue. This is a new one for us. We used this last year as a sample, and then as you guys know, we have planted it a lot in the landscape this year. So I'm gonna pop 2 of these right in the front, and I know what's gonna happen is this plant is actually gonna sort of intermingle with the rest of the plants here, and then it's also gonna be a spiller for us and add that purple sort of all the way down the side. What we're not gonna have to worry about is seeing this container. I think that all around the top edges of this container and over the front of it is gonna be spilling over with beauty. And that Superunia Tiara Blue is really gonna help with that. So I'm gonna pop this right in the front. Right in front here. And we have one extremely full container. See, that's gonna sort of spill into that. And the last one. We're gonna pop right over here in our only remaining gap. All right. Wow. All right, guys, that does it for our RHS Chelsea inspired container. I hope you guys really enjoyed this. Obviously, we will give you updates in our garden tours as the season goes on and this grows in, but we are just so excited for this year's Chelsea Flower Show. If you guys aren't following us on Instagram, go ahead and follow Gardener in Love on Instagram. We're gonna post nightly stories during our creator watch party of our favorite takeaways from the flower show, all of the inspiration that we're finding, and just some of the unique, interesting things that come out of the Chelsea Flower Show. Be sure that you like this video and subscribe to our channel, and we will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.